All right, guys, good to see everybody this morning. Yes, we are going to be looking at World War One, US-15. You guys do a good job without me here, and I think y'all are going to learn a lot. There'll be a part one and a part two today. You still will be doing a blank sheet. We used to this. It'll be a little bit different, but I think it'll work out. Y'all cooperate, you learn something, and you'll feel good about it. I'm excited about it. Okay, so everybody have your papers out. Everybody has something to write with. If you don't, please pause this right now and everybody get that ready. So I'll give you a few seconds, about 5 seconds to have your papers ready. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's get into this. And if you need to rewind this at any time, you certainly may. A little coffee from me. All right, so we're looking at World War One. Now, we're not looking at World War One like you did last year. Last year you looked at World War One in Europe because that's where it was taking place. That was world history. We're going to be looking at World War One and basically how it impacts the United States. You look right here, how did the U.S. get involved in World War One, and what was its impact on the war? All right, let me introduce it like this. It should say this: though reluctant to get involved in the conflict, the United States was, by a series of events, we were forced to enter World War One. All right, this standard will measure your knowledge of the events that brought the United States into the war and the effects the war had on our life here in our country. So you need to have a list of events that basically forces us into the war. All right, let's get into the first thing. All right, first topic here is World War One and its origins. World War One and its origins. All right. When World War One began in Europe in anybody remember what it is? 1914, that's right. President Woodrow Wilson was determined to guarantee U.S., this was our policy before we got into the world or into the war, is neutrality. All right, our policy of U.S. neutrality. Now let me back up just a little bit. How can you remember the President of the United States during World War One? His name is Woodrow Wilson. If you put your hands up in the air, Woodrow Wilson, you'll see World War. I like to call him World War Wilson. World War Wilson. World War Wilson. The President of the United States during World War One is World War Wilson. Woodrow Wilson. World War Wilson. And what he wanted to do was keep us out of the war. He wanted us to be neutral and keep the United States out of the war. And by 1915, this is what begins to happen. There's going to be this luxury liner, this big ship. All right, it's a sister ship of the Titanic. It's called the, you might remember, starts with the L. Remember the name of this ship that's going to blow up? The Lusitania. All right, the luxury liner called the Lusitania was sunk by a German, you can say this in lots of different ways, an Unterseeboot, we're just going to write U-boat, by a German U-boat, killing most of the people on board, including more than, can you guess how many Americans? More than 100 Americans. Now this doesn't seem like a lot to some folks, but here's the deal. The war is now bringing Americans into the war. Americans are starting to die, so we're going to have to start thinking, do we want to remain neutral? Are we going to remain neutral in this war and just let Americans get killed every now and then? And it's okay, or are we going to start getting involved? All right, that's going to be the first thing on the list. What's going to bring us into the war will be the sinking of the Lusitania, killing Americans. All right, now, this led to a crisis between the United States and Germany that was only resolved when Germany agreed to abandon, its policy. All right, its policy is, this is German's policy in the war. It's called unrestricted submarine warfare. All right, unrestricted submarine warfare. So our policy is neutrality. We're not going to be on anybody's side. Germany's policy is unrestricted submarine warfare, and that's going to endanger U.S. trade and American lives. However, this is what happens. Their policy is unrestricted submarine warfare. All right. In 1917, Germany will resume unrestricted submarine warfare. They say they're going to stop doing it. Well, they start doing it again. They start resuming unrestricted submarine warfare again, creating great anti-German feelings among Americans. We're like, what? Yeah, y'all promising us that y'all aren't going to blow up our ships no more. Now you're going to do it? Uh-oh. A lot of anti-German feelings are going to happen here in America. All right, this heightened tension led to the U.S. decision to, what do you guess? What's the word? What's the word? To enter the war. Now, that's not the whole list. There's a lot of other things that we looked at last year, but it's more world history. Man, it's good coffee. All right, the one that's left out that's really a big deal that you need to think about is what's called the Zimmerman Note. Do y'all remember the Zimmerman Note? The Zimmerman Note? Well, the Zimmerman Note, what it was, Germany, they're reaching out to Mexico to try to get Mexico to fight the United States over here so we will not leave our side of the earth and go over there and fight. But here's what's crazy. We capture the letter from General Zimmerman and we read it and we're like, what? Are you crazy? Germans, you are insane. And we look at this, we're like, oh, all right, this is not good. We're going to just have to go to war. So this is going to bring us into the war. The German policy of unrestricted submarine warfare, the sinking of the Lusitania, and the Zimmerman Note. Now notice the year, 1917. The war starts in 1914 when we are neutral. All right, the Lusitania is sunk, and then in 1917 we will enter the war. I'll give you a little hint. In 1918, the war ends. All right, let's pause here for a second. Let's check out some stuff here. World War I, trench warfare from beginning. All right, this is our policy, the old man of the sea. This is our policy right here. Neutrality. All right, we're being dragged into the war. All right, we don't need to look at this right there. All right, look at this. Well, we'll get to that in a second. All right, I just want to stick with this. The U.S. neutrality, old man of the sea. We're getting dragged into the war. All right, all right. Now, here's some other things you might want to think about. There's some stuff that you guys may remember about the war. All right, there's two big movies that came out. One was called, and we watched it in class last year, All Quiet on the Western Front. Here's the trailer from it. Let's see if you remember it. All right, I'm not going to play that whole thing. I know you remember it. I'm going to just go on to the next one. There's another movie that came out that's a little more modern, War Horse. Let's see if y'all remember this. Oh, you got to be kidding. We're not going to look at that. So, Old Man of the Sea. Commercial break, commercial break, commercial break. All right, so let's look at this now. All right. War Horse. Did anybody go see it? Holler out, whoop, whoop, if you saw War Horse. Oh no, the horse. Are they going to kill the horse? This is so scary. What if? Oh no. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's a good show. A little tearjerker. That's right, War Horse. Enough of that stuff right there. All right, let's get back to the good stuff. All right, so you get back to our topics here. All right, World War I. Now we're going to be looking at World War I and its impacts. 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 The war created, here's the deal, check this out. War always does this, created jobs in northeastern and midwestern cities. African Americans, tired of living under the repression that was common in the South, they were tired of it. Guess what they did? They moved to the North. So all this war's going on. You know, those African Americans sick and tired of the South. There are going to be some jobs in the North for them. So they moved to the North by the thousands and established themselves in ethnically distinct and culturally rich neighborhoods. This movement of African Americans was called, can you find it on the board? We call it the Great Migration. The Great Migration of thousands of African Americans leaving the South, and they're going to move to the North. All right. During the war, blank were passed. Can you figure that out? During the war, what blank were passed? Yeah, you got it. Laws were passed that prohibited people from speaking out against it. Now, this is crazy. I want you to think about this. In the United States of America, you have the freedom of speech. And during the war, laws were passed that prohibited people from speaking out against it. All right? This is called the Espionage Act. The Espionage Act. All right? It's the year we enter the war. What's the year that we go into the war? 1917, and made it a crime to communicate any information that would interfere with U.S. military operations or aid its enemies. Wilson supported this law to silence, what do you want to call these people? To silence critics and pacifists. The next year, labor leader, this guy's kind of crazy, labor leader, his name is, I want you to write his name down, Eugene V. Debs. Eugene V. Debs. All right? He's actually going to run for president under a certain political party called the Socialist Party candidate. In 1904, he'll run again in 1908 and then 1912. Watch this. Under the Espionage Act, Eugene V. Debs, all right, the presidential candidate these 3 different years, was convicted for hindering military recruiting by making a blank against it. What did he do? So that's freedom of speech. What did he do that's so bad? He gave a speech against the war. He was sentenced. All right. He just gave a speech. What do y'all think? What do you think? 10 years in prison. Gave him 10 years in prison for making a speech. This is the Espionage Act. This was serious. We were serious. We were serious about going to war. We didn't want people talking about America. Many people supported such laws, although they violated the spirit of which amendment? Which amendment gives us our freedom of speech? Remember, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, remember all that stuff? It is the First Amendment. All right. Social changes seen during the war led to 2 constitutional amendments. Okay. Americans anti, who are we anti? Americans anti, that's right, anti-German feelings led to a campaign to outlaw, guess what's being made, what's Germany known for? Beer. We outlaw beer and other alcoholic beverages. This campaign well suited the progressive era's opposition to saloons. And Congress will pass that's right, bans alcohol being sold here in America. The 18th Amendment, you got to know it, which prohibited the manufacture, the sale, or the transportation of intoxicating, all right, liquors. Intoxicating liquors. So this starts the era of prohibition. It prohibited the buying and selling and manufacturing of alcohol here in America. Let's see where I'm at right here. I think I'm going to have to pause right here. Pause for a second. All right, answer the question.